everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Heather and today I am really excited to share my June TBR with you. Now, fair warning, the lighting in this video may be all over the place because the weather cannot make up its mind. We have had rolling thunderstorms and brilliant sunshine in the space of the last 20 minutes alone, and it is unseasonably cold. So I'm doing my best here. So June, I always look forward to reading in June because the school year will be ending and I will have all the free time to read all of the books. So I usually save a lot of books that I'm really looking forward to as an extra little treat to myself. And in addition, this year, just like last year, Shelley of Shelley Swearingen will be running the Historical Fiction Readathon. And as I love historical fiction, of course, I have to join in. This year, she is also being joined by a lot of other co-hosts, and they've each set a prompt for the readathon. So let me go through those. The first is Shelley's prompt, which is to read a work of historical fiction about a real, remarkable person. And for this, I have chosen Learned by Heart by Emma Donoghue. Now, I've read a couple of Emma Donoghue's books, and there are still more on my TBR that I haven't read, but I'm really interested by this one because it is a novel about Anne Lister. Now, if you've been around my channel for a while, you know that I love Anne Lister, mainly because of the show Gentleman Jack. Mainly season 1. I adore season 1. I haven't watched season 2 yet. But that inspired me to look into her as an actual person. She was a real person living in Yorkshire between the Regency and the 1830s or so. So that strange period between the Regency and the Victorian era. And she was quite unusual. She was a landowner. She was highly educated, mainly self-taught. And she was also relatively open about her sexuality. She dressed in a very manly way, and she had many relationships with women that she wrote about in her diaries in a code that she created herself. And it wasn't until many years later that someone finally brought all of that to light. So I highly recommend these two biographies, one by Angela Stidela and one by Anne Choma. And there are 2 editions of her actual diaries, which have been translated by Helena Whitbread. So as you can tell, I love Anne Lister. I don't think she was always a very lovable person in certain aspects, but I find her fascinating. As such, I'm intrigued to see what Emma Donoghue's novel does with her, especially as this focuses on her, I believe, when she was much younger and still at school. It's definitely looking at her first relationship with a girl that she was at school with. I don't know if it's from Anne's perspective or the other girl's perspective or both of their perspectives. I think this could be an interesting read. It could be a slightly hard read depending on the perspective that we're using, but I'm still really excited about it. Next is Charlotte's prompt, which is to read a work of historical fiction about the arts. And for this, I have been dying to get to One Enchanted Evening by Anton du Beke. I'm always tempted to sing that title. And this is written by Anton du Beke, who you probably know if you're living in Britain. If you're not, he was one of the pros on Strictly Come Dancing, otherwise known as Dancing with the Stars, and is now a judge for the program. But he's been writing novels for the past couple of years, and this is the first in his Buckingham series, I want to say. And this takes place in London in 1936 around the Buckingham Hotel. And I believe it has a very upstairs, downstairs or Downton Abbey type feel to it, except slightly later, and there's ballroom dancing involved, of course. These look absolutely delightful, and I really hope I love this one because there are many more in the series. And of course, now landscapers have arrived somewhere in the neighborhood, so I apologize if you can hear that, but I'm gonna carry on and do my best anyway, because this is the only time I have to film. Next is Melinda's Prompt, which is to read a book of alternate historical fiction. I think this counts as alternate historical fiction. I'm honestly not sure, but I'm really desperate to read it, so I really hope it works. And that is The Agency for Scandal by Laura Wood. These supposedly take place at the end of the Victorian era and follows women who work for the Aviary, an investigative agency run by women that specializes in blackmailing powerful men. And there's romance as well, and adventure. And the reason I say it's alternate historical fiction is that I'm fairly certain that an agency like the Aviary didn't exist. It seems fairly unlikely, at least from what I know. I wish there had been. That would have been fun. But that's why I've picked it for this prompt. Next is Britney's Prompt, which is to read a work of historical fiction with a dual timeline. I honestly wasn't sure what to pick for this one, but I finally settled on rereading The 13th Tale by Diane Setterfield. Now I say rereading. I'm pretty sure I read this when I was 15 or 16 years old because my teacher had recommended it to me. And I remember reading it. I do not remember a thing about the plot and how things turned out. I think because I read another book directly afterwards that I thought was going to be really, really similar, and it turned out to be absolutely dreadful and boring and misogynistic, and I hated it. And so the two have kind of blended together in my head. So I need to give The 13th Tale another read. And so this is about Margaret Lee, who's a young biographer, who's called upon to write the biography of Vida Winter, who's a very famous author, but who has pretty much become a recluse. And secrets unfold during their time together. And I know so many of my friends absolutely adore it. So many people here on BookTube absolutely adore it. So it's about time I gave it another read and decide for myself. And lastly, we have Glorias Prompt, which is to read a work of historical fiction about a specific event. And for that, I have chosen, hopefully, The City of Tears by Kate Moss. This has been on my TBR for a shamefully long time, but I'm finally going to get to it. It is book 2 in a series. The first is The Burning Chambers. But this takes place in France in 1572. And is this during the 30 Years' War? Possibly, but it's during that period of time where the Catholics and the Huguenots are constantly fighting. And it's a family saga, so I really don't want to say too much more about that because it will possibly spoil things for book 1. But yeah, hopefully I finally read this arc. Then lastly, I have 3 other books on my TBR that don't fit into any of these prompts, but they're things that I hope I can read nonetheless. First of all, I am desperate to get to Fagan the Thief by Alison Epstein. This may have a different title in other countries, but the cover design at least remains the same. And this is, as you may have guessed, a retelling and a backstory of Fagan from Oliver Twist, looking at how he came to be the ringmaster of all the pickpockets, how he met Bill Sikes and Nancy, and also what his upbringing was like in the Jewish community of the East End of London in the early Victorian era. And all of that sounds really fascinating, so I really hope I love this book. Another book that I thought I'd throw on here in honor of Shelley's love for it is Catherine by Anya Seton. I know she adored this book, which she read relatively recently. I've been wanting to read it for a while. My mother is dying to read it, but I want to read it first. And this is a historical fiction retelling of the life of Catherine Swynford and imagining what things might have been like for her. Catherine Swynford was the mistress and then I think becomes the second wife of John of Gaunt, and according to my mother is basically the root cause of the War of the Roses. Because John of Gaunt had so many children, and some were legitimate and some were not, that laid the foundation for a lot of the confusion of the War of the Roses later on, and having so many contenders for the throne. So, given how interested my mother is in this topic and how much Shelley loved this novel, really hoping I can get to it at some point. And finally, I have an arc for the new Jane Dunn Regency romance, which I believe this one is The Accidental Debutante. I hope I have that title right. I'll insert a picture over here. And I have loved all of Jane Dunn's fiction novels that I've reviewed so far, so I'm hoping the same will go for this one, such that I really haven't investigated the plot. I just requested it purely on the fact that it was the new Jane Dunn novel. I know my mother also really respects her nonfiction. She has been trying to get me to read her dual biography of Elizabeth I and Mary Queen of Scots since I was about 14 or 15, so over half my life. But I will get there eventually, but I am looking forward to this new fiction book by her in the meantime. So those are all of the books that I hope to read in June. Let me know down below if you will also be participating, what you think of my choices, if you are excited for me to read them. If you hated them, please don't tell me just yet. Wait till my wrap up at the end of the month, please. Then we can discuss whether we liked them or not. Or let me know what you are doing for summer reading. I think whether you're in school or not, summer reading is always a good idea. Well, it's a good idea anytime, but summer reading always sounds that little bit exciting and special to me. Until next time, be safe, be well, and happy reading. Bye, everyone.